Hello and welcome to Ranks FC as we start to look at our team of the year for the year 2021 in conjunction with EA Sports FIFA 22. Now, for those of you that don't know, the EA Sports FIFA Team of the Year voting is open this week. It closes on the 17th of January and the link to vote is in the description. The 11 will be announced on the 20th of January. But we're here to work through who we think have been the best 11 players for us across the calendar year of 2021. And Sam, it's always a tricky task, isn't it? Trying to balance what a calendar year is. Obviously, same problem with the Ballon d'Or. This is basically like the people's Ballon d'Or, isn't it? People vote for the team they put together. But it's always a tricky task. We're going to do our best with getting through it.
The people's Ballon d'Or. I really like that. And you know what? There's a part of that I really like because I'm convinced that most of the journalists that vote in the actual Ballon d'Or aren't watching closely enough. And that's not something you can necessarily say about the FIFA community, who are always cheering and roaring for these players that we've got on these cards. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. I think we're going to have some points of difference. And I think it's going to start pretty much from the off, isn't it, in goal?
Yeah. Why don't you kick us off?
Okay, so I am going to put forward a case for Edouard Mendy of Chelsea to be my goalkeeper for the team of the year. What a year he had. And you do split it in half, but the first half is a Champions League win and an incredible performance all throughout that campaign. Look, there were more impactful players for Chelsea, and I think we'll get to one or two of them. But Chelsea's defensive solidity throughout that latter stage Champions League campaign was stunning. And they barely conceded any goals throughout the entire tournament, to be frank. Now, this season, I think Mendy had maybe 2 bad weeks, and that was it. And if that's the level, if a goalkeeper can just have 2 bad weeks or 2 bad performances, and the rest of it is stellar, absolutely amazing. One of the best save percentages. I mean, you have to take like 30 plus shots against Chelsea to score a goal against them, or were maybe back in October and November. Mendy was in sensational form. I got to see him live a couple of times this year. Very lucky to be able to get to a stadium, and he was stunning. Honestly, he's got it all. He's got the reach, he's got the command of the box, he's got the shot stopping, but he's underrated with his feet. He's much, much better on the ball, much calmer on the ball than people say he is as well. So when you look at the complete modern goalkeeper, I think it's Mendy.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to disagree with a Champions League winner any kind of given point, right? And after the performances he's put in and how good Chelsea were, it's a fair shout. I mean, Dean, is there anyone else you'd like to put in the mix? I have one, but I think I fancy that you'll have one as well.
Yeah, I've got to say, shouts out to my man Thibaut Courtois. Look, I think this is a bit of a narrative really for him as well, because obviously what joined Real Madrid with his reputation in the bin, basically. Lost so much respect over the couple of years that leaded into that transfer. But his year at Real Madrid was superb. Like, I think he got 18 clean sheets across La Liga over the calendar year. But more than that, it's like the amount of times for me that he saved Real Madrid and continues to save Real Madrid. You know, that this is a team that have certainly had flaws with the functionality of their defensive game multiple times throughout the past year. And time again, this guy was producing save after save to keep them in games. And then ultimately, it might be that Benzema nicked them the important goal right at the end to gain them points. Courtois, I think he's probably gone under the radar for some people. But if you've watched enough of him, you know the level he's been playing at.
Yeah. And I think there's a little bit of this season, right? When you look at 2021 as a whole, we're looking at a lot of the back end of last season, a lot of the tournaments in the summer. And it's easy to forget that 5 months of the year is this season, right? August through to December. And Courtois has been immense for Madrid in that period. And I think that's sometimes often forgotten in these debates. I'm going to completely ignore what I've just said, though, and go back for non-recency bias and bring this man, Gigi Donnarumma, into the conversation. Now, obviously, player of the tournament at the Euros this summer as Italy went on to win it, to unbelievable penalty shootouts to win both the semi-final and then the final. Some unbelievable saves. Didn't concede a goal in the group stages. I think also it's easily forgotten what happened at Milan last year. Milan turned around and returned to a Champions League spot after so many years out of the competition. And as we got towards the end of last season in Serie A, it was all getting a bit shaky for Milan, right? It was all feeling a little bit up in the air. They didn't quite close off the spot in the way that perhaps they'd wanted. Donnarumma kept 5 clean sheets in the last 5 games. 5 in 5 in order to bring Milan back into that conversation, to make sure that they were able to look at this and his kind of departure, which has gone not as smoothly as imagined as he would have hoped. It was obviously all a bit frantic, a bit rushed, a bit, well, controversial, I think, at the best of times. But to leave in the way he did, having secured their Champions League spot, then to go and be the hero for his country over the course of the summer, I think it would be unfair not to include Gigi Donnarumma in this conversation. I think for sure he's in the top 3. Whether he's the top 1 or not, I suppose we'll have to come to a conclusion.
Yeah, we're going to have to get quite nitpicky here, aren't we?
Yes.
Because these are 3 outstanding candidates. Here's the way I see it. I still think Mendy is the one, and I think winning that Champions League is always helpful in that area. I'd say that Courtois has been outstanding this year, and I agree with every word Dean says, but he doesn't have that Champions League trophy to his name, and obviously they didn't get over the line in La Liga either. And Donnarumma, you made a very good point when you were talking about Courtois, is that the last 5 months of 2021 are also in play here, and it's not his fault. But he just slowed down a little bit at PSG because he's been rotated in and out with Keylor Navas and missed a couple of games and probably hasn't hit top form, just like pretty much everybody else at PSG hasn't either. So I'm putting the case once again forward for Mendy, who I think just edges 2 other outstanding candidates.
Yeah, I mean, for consistency's sake, I think maybe that has to be the one, right? It has to be Mendy, purely because I think he's had 1 bad month in the year, and I think everyone else has had a couple.
2 weeks, mate. Can't call it a month.
I'm going to call it a month. I'm going to say December was bad.
Yeah, I mean, look, he fixed a major problem they had, didn't he? Like he was brought in to fix a problem that Chelsea had, and he did it perfectly. I think it's fair. I think it's fair.
All right. We'll give Mendy the nod in goal. Fair play. Well done, Edouard Mendy, making our 2021 team of the year. Let's go right back, shall we? And Dean, you're going to kick us off here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Liverpool's Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, I think, in a modern game, we've obviously seen this position develop over the past few years, and Trent has been kind of like the beacon of that. He's a guy that's relished changing how games are defined, and the fact that he's likes to be on the front foot, the fact that he likes to be attacking, talks about obviously for his assists and his crossing ability, his passing ability. I still think that there are probably some improvements he could make defensively, and I think that probably will happen. But over the course of the calendar year, look, he was probably questioned even at times, but I still think you struggle to find somebody who was consistently as good as Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I remember a spell not so long ago, actually, it was a little spell towards the end of the year when, things were getting a bit tough, and Liverpool being forced to, pitch in and start to make sure they remained in the title race. And Trent stepped forward. He got 5 assists in 5 games, even got a goal against West Ham, and they lost that game. But if you think of the performances and the level of the performances, particularly that Arsenal game, if you remember when they won 4-0, I mean, this guy, when he steps up, he really steps up. And I just think that he is the bar. I think that he is the guy that you've got to be better than to make this position your own.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. One man that I would put into the mix is Achraf Hakimi, who's now at PSG, obviously, but was at Inter last year as they won their first title in over a decade, and again almost played every minute in that Inter charge. I think after Christmas and after the turn of the year, as 2021 came round, Hakimi and Inter both went into this kind of mode where they just looked unbelievably good. And Hakimi played almost every minute. He missed 1 game with a yellow card suspension against Genoa in the back half of last season. He got a really important assist in sort of just as this was finally getting over the line. Got the assist in a 1-0 win over Cagliari, a 1-0 win over Hellas, in sort of just the start of and the end of April during this period. And I do think that without Hakimi, Inter maybe don't get it done the only thing I would say is that I'm starting to create a trend here for myself in that I'm talking about players who did really well in Serie A last season and then came to PSG, where it's not been quite as clear. But Hakimi has 3 goals and 3 assists at PSG this season. It's not loads. It's not stunning amounts, but it's still a decent outlay for someone who's, primarily playing in a defensive position, doesn't play in a defensive sense. I'm not suggesting that Hakimi is primarily a defender, but for a right back, it's not a particularly poor outlay, I don't think. I don't know if he has done enough to oust Trent for me. But I would like to say that he should be in the conversation, because I think that Hakimi's influence and importance on that interside last year is unbelievable.
There's similarities between these two, really, aren't they? Because they're both top-heavy players in terms of the weighting of their game. They are attacking players. Yes, they're played at right back, but you don't really consider them to be defenders. I mean, Trent in almost any other system is either a winger or a central midfielder, in my opinion. I think Klopp has just done a wonderful job of creating a system that allows him to play fullback, to put him in the right areas for those deep in-swinging crosses. And then Hakimi, you just want to give him space to run into. But really, it's all about his attacking game. And you get the most space probably as a wing-back or a fullback, because you get the flank to run down. So 2 managers in Conte and Klopp who have unlocked the very best of these guys. And also, have you noticed that every single goal they score is an absolute stunner? Like they just don't score bad goals.
Only score worldies. Yeah.
And they're both different types of worldies as well, because Hakimi just hammers them and Trent often flicks them and curls them and takes them from set pieces. They're, again, very different players in so many ways, but just the trend of the modern attacking fullback. And if you'd like me to be
go on, Sam, give the vote.
The decision maker, I think I have to say it's Trent. I think his level is too consistently high, and I'm a massive fan of what Hakimi was last season. But again, he's just faltered ever so slightly. Whereas Trent, arguably, he's never looked better. Towards the end of the year, I think this might be his best ever set of performances, and his combination with Salah has gone on yet another level. So I'll give him the nod.
Okay, nice. All right. Dean gets one into the side.
Yes,
nice.
Well done.
I will. My weight will go on.
Yeah, let's see if you can get this one. Go on.
Well, we're going to flip over to left back, and I believe Sam has a contender for us.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like I'm going to pop Joao Cancelo's name into the mix here, and I think he probably needs to go into the conversation for left back, even though, of course, you know that he can tussle with these guys for right back. But really, we've just seen Cancelo make the left back spot his home over the last year, haven't we? I mean, there was always a debate whether or not he might be able to go here, he might be able to go there. He could play either side, but really the system is settled, and Cancelo is now, he's a left back. And he's a right-footed left back, and they're not very common. And they have to be exceptionally good to really make hay in that position. But, he's so used to it now that we watched a recent performance of his against Arsenal, and he had to play right back because Kyle Walker was unavailable. He's nowhere near as good at right back. His game has evolved so much from the left now, and he's so in tune with the different passing lanes and the different passing angles that are available to him from left back, and the way that he can recycle possession, the way he can filter into midfield, the way he finds his winger. It's all so natural to him now on that side. And I mean, look, I just don't think really anybody can hold a candle to Joao Cancelo over the course of the year in terms of the consistency, the output, the goals and assists, but just like the sheer impact as well. And I've said it before, Jack, and I know you're a fan of the phrase, but Man City, the system helps certain players stand out. And I think Joao Cancelo actually is the Manchester City system in so many ways. And when he plays at left back, he is just one of their most influential players, which is a hell of a thing to say about a fullback in a possession system.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only person I think you could chuck into the conversation of having a wonderful year is maybe Theo Hernandez, who continues to be wonderful. But I don't think that Theo, for me, has done enough to oust Cancelo after the year that Cancelo had. And I love Theo. Regular listeners to this podcast will know how much I wax lyrical about Theo Hernandez rumbling up that left-hand side for Milan. For France, was obviously excellent in the Nations League. But I think I'm just going to have to bow out gracefully on this one, Sam, and assume that you're correct. So Joao Cancelo can go in at left back, which takes us into the middle. And I'm going to put someone forward who I think is going to be my first lock in this team. And I'm going to go for Cancelo's teammate at both club and international level, Ruben Dias, who has been an absolute rock for Manchester City as they romped to the Premier League title last year. Look, Dias, his influence, I think, can't be overstated, and we were a little bit concerned when he came in at Manchester City. You know, that we weren't sure that the system was actually going to suit him. When he came in from Benfica, we were a little bit, because he absolutely trod all over all of that. He has been remarkable in the middle of that City back line. He is a body on the line, put it all there defender. He's the kind of defender that fans love. He's the kind of defender the players love playing with. And I just think his influence over the course of the last year means that he's almost certainly going to be a nod here. And I'm just going to take your word for it.
He's always available as well, which just really helps. Like, he's just ever present. He's like never injured, rarely suspended, always there. And City are one of the most consistent teams in terms of preventing goals being conceded. And if you're the guy that's literally always at the heart of that, then you must be doing something right.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Dave, we got any other centre backs to put into contention here?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to throw the man of the moment, really, Antonio Rudiger. Currently being talked about. He's wanted by everyone, and that's because he's just had the year of his life at Chelsea. Like, every aspect of his game seems to have grown to the point where you think the beginning of his Chelsea career and the frustrations that he had of finding a place in the team, being relied upon. Suddenly, he was like the first name on the team sheet, and it was his quality, obviously, that first and foremost made that happen. But it was his character too that became such a big part of Chelsea and their rise across the course of 2021 under Thomas Tuchel. And on top of that, he then started to bring an extra edge to their back line in the way that he was so confident. He was willing to start bringing the ball out. He was willing to start beginning their playing styles from the back and set off the triggers that would make the front guys start making their forward runs. And that was really impressive for me in the way that he improved. And as I say, we've got to the stage now where, unfortunately for Chelsea, they haven't offered him a contract that he's been willing to sign so far. And now you've got Real Madrid, PSG, Bayern Munich, Man United and Tottenham so far knocking on the door saying, if he's a free agent, we want him, we'll pay him pretty much whatever he wants, because he's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a good place to be in, I imagine, if you're Antonio Rudiger, but less of a good place to be in if you're Chelsea.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's so
Rudiger's
important.
a nice, easy one, isn't he? Because it's literally his calendar year that was excellent, because Thomas Tuchel came in right at the start of the year. So like Chelsea players are like really easy to track in these terms. Everybody else is really difficult because it splits sort of 2 seasons. But this basically is just Thomas Tuchel's first year. And it was Tuchel that really brought Rudiger back into the frame and made him a really important part of the system, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely was, yeah.
Look, we're looking at 2 centre-backs here, Sam, who have had unbelievable years. A Premier League winner, a Champions League winner, alongside each other. Is there anyone that you can put in here that's going to shift them?
Well, it's all Premier League players so far, isn't it? A bit of Premier League bias going on. But then again, these are the 2 sides, City and Chelsea, that did make that Champions League final when the Premier League feels like it's kind of setting the bar. But there is one player here who I just want to give a shout out to. I'm not going to go ahead and say that he deserves to be in the team over Rudiger or Dias, but Simon Kier had an incredible 2021. His performance levels were stunning. He was brave when he needed to be. There was a horrible situation for he and his Danish national teammates over the course of the summer with Christian Eriksen, and he behaved with aplomb and respect. It was just wonderful to watch him carry himself throughout that tournament, his actions on the pitch, his actions off the pitch. And then you go to his AC Milan standard, which, I mean, he got nominated for the Ballon d'Or, and I hope it wasn't simply out of sentiment, because he deserved to be there performance levels as well. He was absolutely brilliant. We talked about Donnarumma being key and keeping clean sheets and getting Milan into the Champions League. Well, Simon Kier is the defensive leader there, and his level, he refound that level over the course of the year, and he had an excellent start to the season as well, up until, very sadly, he tore his ACL, and he probably misses the rest of the year. But from January to November, he was about as good as anyone. And I wanted to give him a little shout out for everything he's done over the course of the year.
Yeah, I mean, look, they created an award for him this summer because of how important he was and what a gesture it was, but also on the pitch, been unbelievable for Milan and also in that Danish run to the semi-final. So, I mean, absolutely worth consideration, I think, but probably not quite done enough on the pitch to shift out Rudiger and Diaz. So we'll stick with them, and that's our back five logged: Edouard Mendy, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ruben Diaz, Antonio Rudiger, and Joao Cancelo. And I suppose probably the first thing to do here is actually discuss what we're going to do in terms of formation, because it's hard to pick a midfield 2/3 until we know if we're having a midfield 2 or 3. So what are we looking at here, boys?
Oh, man.
I'll let Sam take the lead. He's the tactician, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is, there's so many amazing attacking options, as there almost always is in this scenario. And those names, they just punch a little bit harder, don't they? So I feel like it's more fun for us to try and include as many attackers as possible. And I think there's going to be at least 4 here that we pick. There's probably about 6 or 7 that we all want to cram in, but that's literally impossible. So don't even try. But if we try and add 4 attackers in, that probably gives us a midfield 2. So I'm kind of feeling like a Ralph Rangnick 4-2-2-2, except I promise that this one will work better than Ralph Rangnick's has at United so far.
Okay, all right. But Dean, do you want to
That's the only way Man United get into this team.
Yeah, exactly. Dean, stick us up in central midfield. We'll see how we go.
I can, but I feel a bit bad here because I'm staying in the Premier League. N'Golo Kante. I mean, we can
but you have to.
We can try and avoid it, but if you're looking for a central midfielder, how can we look past the man who's, kind of made the position his own across world football? Everyone that plays centre midfield wants to play it like N'Golo Kante, but they can't, because they can't get around the pitch like this man can. He's now 30 years of age. I don't know how much longer he's going to be able to do this. There are some signs of him wearing. I mean, he's started to miss games through injury now. And actually, to his benefit, in a way, because if you want to see how influential N'Golo Kante is on this Chelsea team, then it's by looking at when he's missed games for Chelsea. And at the start of this season, there was so much praise going to Thomas Tuchel and his defence for an unbelievable defensive record. But a lot of it was down to N'Golo Kante. And this is when it became clear. So in Kante's first 8 games of the season for Chelsea, they conceded 3 goals. Suddenly, he had a knee problem. And in the 5 games that he was missing, Chelsea conceded 8 goals. It was when their season started to change. It was when they lost the momentum and lost the belief a lot of team had that they were going to set the pace in the title race this season. Of course, you remember that Man United game against Chelsea, and Jorginho tried to obviously bring the ball down, and Jadon Sancho raced through. And from that moment, look, N'Golo Kante would usually have been in that position. Jorginho, he was back there after a corner, and usually Kante sweeps things up there. And it was a size like, yeah, okay, like this is what happens when this guy does all the simple bits that are supposed to be simple anyway, so efficiently, so effectively. And other people, no matter how good you are, you can't do it all the time, and you're going to make mistakes. And I think that's what's happened to Chelsea this season. I think that, they're always a better team when Kante's there. And I defy you to find a couple of midfielders that are better than N'Golo Kante over the course of a calendar year.
I'm sorry, but when you put together as many man of the match performances in Champions League knockout games as he did over the course of 2021, it was seemingly every game they played, quarterfinal, semi-final, final. Every time they finished the game, it was like, and the man of the match is N'Golo Kante. I mean, he sealed his spot in this team in May. He didn't even have to play particularly well in September and October, and then his influence become clear when he was not there. That didn't even have to happen. I mean, this guy's put in the best performances, I think, of any player on the very biggest stages of club football this over the last year or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with that, isn't it? It's what it is in terms of where we are and how good Kante just has been across the course. I've got a shout for his partner, right? This is where I'm going to go. I don't want to stand here and tell you that I don't think that N'Golo Kante should be in the team, because I think that's unfair. But I do think next to him should be our first non-Premier League player in Nicolo Barela. Now, Barela came 26th in the Ballon d'Or rankings earlier this season, and I lost the plot.
I've never seen Jack more angry.
Fully lost the plot.
I think he
European
was too high.
champion
I think he was too high.
with Italy, scored the winner against the world's #1 nation in Belgium, ended Juve's stranglehold on Serie A with Inter, Serie A midfielder of the year, Serie A team of the season. Ludicrous. So they thought there were 25 players better than Nicolo Barela in 2021. There were maybe 4 players better than Nicolo Barela in 2021. He was just magnificent, and he's continued that form into the new season as well. And I think maybe this is what sets him apart from maybe the others around him. He has waltzed back in Serie A and done it again. And when Inter needed players to step up in the absence of Conte, but also Lukaku and Hakimi and Eriksen's creativity, he's gone again. And Barella has just stepped up and continued to provide the most magical things week after week. He is a delight to watch, the complete midfielder in so many ways. And I just think that there is no way he cannot be in this team. No way at all. He's just too good, too special, and too important at both club and country level to ignore.
Yeah, I mean...
Go on, Dean. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say,
try and find another Premier League player.
Go on. I dare you.
Go on.
I can't. Why isn't he in the Premier League if he's so good? That's all I can come up with. I obviously don't watch Barella as much as you do, but I whenever I do see him, like he's different class and he's a bit of a magician. So I have to kind of bow to your knowledge of the guy on this one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, I imagine there would be shouts for someone like Declan Rice, who's been exceptional.
Well, I've got a Declan Rice card here, mate. And like Sam says, Kante gets man of the match for Chelsea in every Champions League game. Well, Declan Rice gets West Ham's man of the match almost every single time he plays, no matter the competition. So we have to give that guy a mention. He obviously came into the Euros for England as well, did so well, and he's now got a price tag of like £120 million, such as his value to West Ham, and they just can't bear to even consider what their team would look like without him, because he does everything, and he's becoming not just the defensive midfielder that he kind of made his name for, but he's now becoming that box-to-box midfielder that he wants to be.
Yeah, I mean, his talent undoubted. I just think that he probably is the person who falls victim to this 2 in midfield, right? He is the player. The only other person I would have put in conversation is Marco Verratti, but who I think is wonderful and a glorious watch. And interesting that I've put the 2 Italy midfielders who aren't Jorginho into the mix here. But I think Verratti's injury record over the course of the year is just too prevalent to actually put him in with a full shout. So I would argue that Declan Rice is probably the player who misses out because this isn't a 3, because we've gone for a 4 up top. And he's unfortunate in that regard, but that's where we are, I suppose.
Yeah. Looks like it.
Okay,
so we've 3. Rice would be at the base, and Kante and Barella would be our box-to-box dynamo number 8s. And honestly,
it's a hell of a midfield.
Thinking about that right now, actually, I want to. Can we change it?
Change things.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Right,
but I want to see it.
I want to see it too. Yeah, absolutely. There is one thing we need to do, which is our 4 up top, should we say, or 2 wide forwards and 2 centre forwards. I think it's probably how this is going to look. So I would say each we lock a player in, and then we have a debate for the 4th spot. Would be my take on the matter. So, Sam, why don't you start us off?
Okay. So my lock for the forward line is going to be Robert Lewandowski. It's the easiest selection I've made all day because I think he should have won the Ballon d'Or, which means I think he's the best player in 2021. So he obviously deserves a spot in this team. He scored a ridiculous amount of goals. His goals per game ratio, goals per 90 ratio was out of this world. The consistency levels were out of this world. And as we know with Lewandowski, he's not just a goal scorer. He contributes to every phase of play. He's on the near post for corners, defending and heading them away. He's up there facilitating and linking. He's moving to create space for Thomas Muller. He's linking with his wingers. He's converting chances, but he's just doing everything all of the time. And it tends to be, it's bad timing on this one because they did just lose 2-1 on Friday, but it tends to be that even if Bayern don't play particularly well, Lewandowski will probably score you enough goals on balance to get you at least a draw, if not probably just like an undeserved 3-2 win or something. Now, fell foul of that on Friday, but typically speaking, over over the 50-odd weeks in the year, that will come up trumps more often than not. And Lewandowski feels a bit like a cheat code at points, and he's owed, I think, 2 Ballon d'Ors now. So maybe he can keep himself warm at night by knowing that he is in the Ranks FC EA Sports FIFA 22 Team of the Year. Do you reckon that will help?
Yeah, I think it will probably. It will soften the blow.
That, won't he?
It will soften the blow. So there's that to consider, isn't there? But amazing, absolutely unbelievable. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that one.
Obviously, some players get sent awards and stuff. Not like, obviously, you don't get like the Ballon d'Or in the post or whatever, but sometimes like a newspaper will give them an award or something like that, and you'll see them holding it up. If I can get Robert's address, I'll send him this card and just put from the lads at Ranks. Congratulations, and maybe that will go down really well.
Yeah, I think that will really help. Would be my yeah. Let's roll with that. So, yeah, absolutely unbelievable. Right, Dean, who's your lock?
My lock is a lad called Mo Salah. Very good at football. This one. I don't think there'll be any arguments over it, unless actually you are one of those guys that voted for the actual Ballon d'Or, where Mo Salah finished 7th, by the way. Remember? No, don't forget this. Mo Salah finished 7th, and I remember when he was reminded of that fact a few days after the event, a reporter said to him, Mo, you finished 7th, and he just burst out laughing. Like it really is a joke that guy finished so low. At the time, he'd scored something in like 19 consecutive games or something ridiculous, and I think he got 38 goals across the calendar year. Mo Salah, obviously Liverpool aren't one-dimensional, but you take Mo Salah out of that team, and they are not the same team. I genuinely think like. People talked about when Virgil van Dijk wasn't there and the impact that had on them and how difficult it was to replace him. Salah's irreplaceable. I really do believe that, and I think that's their big fear going forward. They're in a really sticky situation, Liverpool, because I mean Mo Salah, as we record this, he's just given an interview that's been they've come out and he's talking again about his contract, how he wants to stay, but it's on the club now to kind of make it happen. They know the terms that are needed. His contract comes to an end in 2023, and the thought of a Liverpool team without Mo Salah anytime soon is kind of hard to comprehend. It's his style of play. It's the time that he steps forward with big moments, big goals. Even the accuracy of his penalties and how frequently he dispatches them has to be applauded. There's barely a flaw in his game at this point. I still find his style of play to be unusual. I still can't get used to the fact that he is so consistent, because sometimes he still looks awkward and looks like almost like he doesn't know what he's about to do, but he clearly does. It's working brilliantly. Still, nobody knows how to deal with him. I don't think you two have any arguments with this.
No, I think from kind of August, we're talking about the best player on form in the entire world. And it was hardly sloppy before that, was it? So I think that's kind of where we're at with it. So, you look at Salah and it just makes absolutely no sense not to have him in the team. I'm going to move on to my lock, which is going to be this man, Karim Benzema. Now, in 2021, as a calendar year, Karim Benzema played 63 games for club and country for France and Real Madrid. He scored 47 goals and he got 13 assists, which is basically a 1-in-1 ratio in terms of goal contributions, which is pretty remarkable. Topped that off with obviously his first international trophy in the Nations League back at the back end of last year, and nice to finally win something with France as well after all the troubles that have gone on there. But mostly we're just looking at one of the players who continues to be golden long after the first statements were made that Benzema was perhaps tailing off. And obviously when Real Madrid lost Cristiano Ronaldo, there were all these talks about who was going to step up to the plate, who was going to fill that hole. They tried to bring in players, they tried to bring in new players, and it was Benzema, the old guard, who stepped up for Real Madrid. And now he is playing as well as I've ever seen Karim Benzema play. And I loved watching him in those early Lyon days. I loved that kind of explosivity in his game. This is different gravy. He is a Rolls Royce, a Mercedes Benzema, as is often said here. But he is just so good. And his relationship that has burgeoned with Vinicius Jr. over the course of this season, and the link up that they have, because especially considering where they were, 2 years ago, where Benzema was actively saying in the tunnel, "Don't pass to Vinicius. He's playing against us." The turnaround from that period where Benzema has gone to become, Benzema and Vinicius have gone to become one of the great partnerships in world football right now. I think it's just absolutely unbelievable. And it's a joy to watch Karim Benzema play every week. At the moment, he continues to provide crucial goals, left, right, and center. He is a facilitator. He is a goal scorer. He is everything you could possibly want in a number 9. And I'm just so impressed with him every single week. He is my lock for this team of the year, which leaves us one spot, boys. And the good news about this is we can kind of shift people about a little bit. But I'd imagine it's going to be a wide forward spot. I mean, we could go 3 up top with 1 behind them, but it does look a bit like it. So I'm going to ask for your opinions on who should fill this final spot. And Sam, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, so I've got one for you, and it's a rogue pick. I'll give you that, but I'm just going to put Kylian Mbappe's name into the mix. Someone who doesn't have the trophies that we would necessarily associate with him, to be honest with you. I think we all probably expected a bit more silverware out of Mbappe and PSG and France, basically, over the course of 2021. But I've got no bone to pick with Mbappe's individual performances. In fact, I found watching PSG this season a bit of a chore. And the only real bright point has been Kylian Mbappe and what he's been able to do in terms of converting 1-0 deficits and bad positions that a team like PSG should not be in. And he's managed to create goals and assists, often in the last 20 minutes, often at pivotal moments, in order to turn those games into wins. And PSG's ridiculous lead at the top of Liga, every time I look at it right now, I just laugh and giggle and think, yeah, it's basically Kylian Mbappe. And so there's been an awful lot of players that we've talked about so far in this bracket, who obviously their season was weighted more towards the first half of the year for obvious reasons. They won the league, they won a Champions League, they participated at the Euros and won the Euros and things like that. And I just wanted to throw a name in there that I think actually ended stronger than they started, because, look, as you say, the last 5 months have been pivotal too. It's not as if Mbappe was particularly sloppy at the end of last season either. He's had a good overall year. But this season in particular for PSG, I've been really, really impressed with him, because he is still quite young. We do forget that. And he has stepped forward and taken ownership of the situation multiple weeks now, multiple months actually, and made sure that PSG do not drift, do not veer. And I respect that. I respect that decisiveness in a player like Mbappe, who already has that killer gene that so many strikers end up well into their 30s still searching for.
Yeah, we'll see. He's a wonderful footballer. I don't think anyone's going to doubt that. Is he good enough for this forward spot, though? Dean, who are you going for?
I do love Mbappe, don't I? So I'm really not going to argue with Sam there, but I'm going to have to put forward a case for 2 guys who actually don't pay out wide. The card I've got right here is Erling Horland, one of obviously my other favourite players in the world right now, because how can you not enjoy watching that guy? The problem, I guess, with Horland is his injury record, particularly in the first half of this season. He just hasn't had time to build up momentum. He's missed half of their Champions League matches. When he does play, like obviously he normally scores. His goals record is fine, but because of the inconsistencies,
it's better than fine. I think we probably should say.
Well, not by his records. Like, he won't be happy with it. Don't forget. Like, he has this ridiculous expectation that he wants to end his career with more goals than games, or whatever it is. And I want to give a shout out.
It's not that ridiculous when you think about it, is it?
Not, no. Well, just see if he can keep it up for the next 10 years. But and Vlahovic as well. Haven't got his card, but his calendar year was. Oh, you've got it. There it is. I mean, mate, these two aren't probably going to move our central players out of this team, because Lewandowski and Benzema were ridiculous, but Vlahovic was unreal.
Here's the next gen, isn't it? This is what you're saying. We're looking at Benzema
next year's
and
team
Lewandowski. this is the two coming through. The two big nines in the world at the moment, it feels like, coming through as the next generation. So
Yeah.
I don't think I could disagree with that. But
Fair enough.
Vlahovic has been unbelievable. And some of the records he's broken for Fiorentina this year, you know, breaking records held by the likes of Gabriel Batistuta and Luca Toni, greats of the game. And Vlahovic is doing this at such a young age. There is no wonder he's in such high demand, and no wonder that he's in the conversation, but probably just hasn't done enough to shift the middle two for me.
No, he can't play out wide.
I've got a wide player for you.
Go
And this one might shock you, but I'm going to chuck in the Ballon d'Or winner. I don't alarm anyone, but this is Lionel Messi, who won the Ballon d'Or. Now, there was plenty of controversy about this, right? And there was a lot of people who thought that Robert Lewandowski should have won it, and that's fine. You're entitled to your opinions. But I think that whatever you think, it's very difficult to argue that Messi was still unbelievable in 2021. Now, there is the case to be made that after the summer, where he basically went on a holiday after winning the Copa America, which we'll come on to, it hasn't quite got back up to speed at PSG, and it hasn't quite worked out as well as perhaps people thought it would. But you have to look at this Copa America, right, which is Messi's first senior international tournament or international trophy. He'd won Olympic gold, but this is the thing that was held against him time and time again, that he hadn't gone and won an international trophy with Argentina until he did. And he was unbelievable in Brazil. It's important to remember that Argentina went and won the Copa America on the turf of their great rivals. He went and did it in Brazil, right? And this is incredible. Yes, he was a top scorer, 4 goals, most assists, 5. He was absolutely unbelievable. The quarterfinal against Ecuador, I think, was probably his standout game for me. There was a couple of assists, I think, and then he scored an absolutely glorious free kick to top things off. And I think across the course of things, it's really easy to think, oh, was he just given the Ballon d'Or? Is he just in this for his performances for Argentina, which have been magical? And we're looking at Argentina for the first time since maybe 2006, 2010, as a real force in the World Cup next year, or this year now, I suppose we should be saying. This is the point where we're looking at and going, Argentina are back, and that's something nice to see. But also, look at where Barcelona are now compared to where they were last year. Yes, they didn't win anything last year, but they were in the conversations. They won the Copa.
They won the Copa.
I apologize. They didn't win the league last year, but they were in the conversation. This season, Barcelona are not in the conversation. And the big factor that you're looking at there is no Lionel Messi. And ultimately, at the end of last season, it's quite easy to forget that he scored 28 goals in the last 29 games of the season. In the 29 games in 2021, he scored 28 goals. And the Copa, which they won, he was man of the match. He was absolutely unbelievable. 41 goals and 17 assists in 56 games in 2021. It just, he's still absolutely up there with more than a goal a game. And that, or more than a goal contribution a game, I should say. And for me, just absolutely unbelievable still. Very much the peak of his, not the peak of his powers in terms of what he was able to do, but the peak of his powers instead of still being able to inspire. He was still able to inspire Barcelona, still able to inspire Argentina. Yes, it hasn't clicked yet at PSG. And yes, the last couple of months are not great. And I think we can all look at that and be like, okay, a bit hands up. It wasn't perfect. It hasn't fitted as people would have wanted to. But still, for me, one of the best 11 players in the world in 2021, by some distance, probably one of the top 3.
I can't believe I sat here and held up Mbappe's card only for then Jack to just do reel off that.
Yeah, I know.
I feel really silly.
It was like you'd thought about what you're going to say there as well, which you don't normally do on this podcast.
That's not, Jack doesn't do that very often, so
no,
we can't really expect him to do that.
Didn't he?
It's a combination of being able to speak from the heart and also just vaguely know what we're talking about. It's it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it often works, right? So I think we'll take that, shall we? And we'll put Messi
go with
in.
Messi.
Okay. Yep. So the front 4 is Lionel Messi, Mohamed Salah, Robert Lewandowski, and Karim Benzema, in front of N'Golo Kante and Nicolo Barela, with a back 5 of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ruben Dias, Antonio Rudiger, João Cancelo, and Edouard Mendy. It's not bad, is it?
Lovely stuff.
I like
Absolutely
it.
Lovely.
People will have problems
Lovely.
with it, but we'll soon hear about that.
I'm sure there'll be lots of people with lots of opinions. That's the glory of having a people's Ballon d'Or, right? This is the
Yeah.
glory of having the EA Sports Team of the Year. And you can have your say in the voting, which remains open until the 17th. It's in the description of this show, which means that you can go and have your own say and let us know what you think in the comments and on social media, of course, where you can do all these bits and bobs. But that is our Team of the Year in conjunction with EA Sports FIFA, and we hope you've enjoyed it.